Oh, probably about a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to my brother do an on computer kind of interview with another pastor. And I was really impressed with my brother. That's hard for a brother to say. I was very impressed. He was very inspiring, and I was thinking about God an awful lot after that and stuff. And so today, I'm probably not going to tell you anything new, okay? But I'm hoping that you'll see how amazing and how majestic and how awesome our God is. That's my purpose, so that you would see how amazing our God is. So I'm going to start from Genesis chapter 1. I kind of go through it a little bit by the days, but I have all kinds of information to give you within that to let you grasp how great this creation really was and what God did through all of that. So verse 2 says that the earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. There's been, ever since I was growing up, there were all kinds of explanations that I remember from this verse. Someone, like they told us that, oh, well, God created it, and then Satan came down and destroyed it, and so God had to recreate it when it was formless and void and everything. And I've heard all kinds of explanations, but as I was researching and I was looking through this, I liked the explanation that I found in a commentary, and he said, basically what God did first was he created the material that he needed to make his creation. There was nothing but God, right? So he had to make something. It's kind of like, I looked at it and I thought, well, it's kind of like you get the lump of clay first, and then once you've got that clump of clay, you start fashioning it as the thing rotates and stuff, right? So formless and void there wasn't anything there but material. It was dark. There was nothing there but the material that God was going to use to be able to create this world. That was interesting to me because I had never heard anything like that before, but it makes sense to me. And then the second thing that I noticed here was that the water he created a water barrier around the earth. In verse 6, if you go down there, it says, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so, and God called the expanse heaven. So basically what he did was he created this covering of the earth with half the water. Well, I don't know if it's exactly half. It just says he separated the water from below and the water above. And in between those two, he put the sky, heaven. And so he used that to be able to keep out the penetration of all the UV, ultraviolet, all those different kind of rays and stuff and things that come down into our earth. And that's why we could live for 900 years. Remember back then, all of the people lived for 900 years, 700 years, 800 years, 600 years. Methuselah was the longest one he lived. Well, they didn't have all of that stuff coming at them like we do. And God in his foreknowledge knew what? He knew there was going to be a worldwide flood. Well, where was all that water going to come from? And it says, when they talk about the flood, that the waters from above came down and the waters from the deep came up and covered the whole earth. And that expanse disappeared after that because God let all that water pour down on the earth for the flood. So as I look at this, I'm thinking, wow, God, you're not just creating something that is there, but you're looking into the future and you're seeing the future, so you're knowing exactly what you're going to need to be able to take care of the situation that's coming up in the future. So even in creation, God in his greatness and awesomeness uses everything that he sees in the future to be able to create for us in the beginning what's needed for all of the things that are going to come along. That's amazing to me. That's amazing to me. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we had the ability to look ahead so that when our kids are growing up, we could do everything that we needed with those kids and get it all ready for them just so that we know when they needed it, it would be there. Wouldn't that be wonderful? We can't do that though, can we? We don't have that ability. All we can do is do the best that we can, and hopefully, as they grow up, they're going to mature properly, and we'll be there to support them when they have their problems and difficulties, but we don't have the ability to create anything that's going to actually help them as they grow up. God had the ability to create absolutely everything we needed before anything even happened to come about. Then in verse 9 it says, "And let the waters under the heavens be I said that already, didn't I? Oh no, let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." Okay? So basically the whole earth at the beginning was just covered by water. But God needed something that we could live on. Unless he's going to give us fins and stuff that we'd have to live in the water and swim around all the time. So he brought up from below the land and the waters around it, and he called the waters sea, and the land was there, so that he had some place for us to live on. Isn't that wonderful? I don't know about you, but I like being a human better than a fish. You know? So he did all of that. Now, I was doing some research on our world, and I was wondering about some different places that would be around the world. And I found this one that was totally amazing to me. When God created the earth, he created this one place in the Amazon. It's called the Boiling River of Amazon. And I don't know why. I have no idea why he created this one, but that river, the temperature of it is 86 degrees centigrade, or 186.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a constant for this river as it keeps running. Wasn't able to find any explanation, but I imagine it means there's lava underneath it or something or other that's heating it up, or like the minerals and hot springs and spas that we find around the world. But there's a whole river like that. Now, why would he do that? I don't know, but it fascinates me. And I was thinking about this. When I get into the stars and stuff, I'll make my statement, but I won't make it yet. So anyway, the next thing that God did was he made the lights in expanse of heaven in verse 14. Did you know? You know there's more than one galaxy out there, right? Yeah, there's more than one galaxy. Did you know that the average distance between each galaxy is 20 million trillion miles? 20 million trillion miles. And that each galaxy has an average of 200 million stars. Wow, did God ever go to an extreme? You know, like, it's just this one world. Why didn't he just make it a Milky Way and leave it at that? But why did he put out all those galaxies after galaxy and millions and millions and millions of stars? I think it was to keep us occupied. You know that? I think it was so that we had to be able to keep learning, keep growing, keep finding new things, understanding things better, and all of the things that he's done, even how he created the earth. That we had to have an adventure or something that would make us think and work and grow and change, so that we would be able to understand him better. It wasn't just like, here I am, folks, and this is God, and this is what I am like. It was, no, you're going to find out as you keep going, and as you keep growing, and as you find new things. And as they adventured around the world, they discovered all kinds of different things that would keep them learning and growing. About minerals, about different things and how we can use them and how they would become very creative. That's amazing to me how God would do that and think so far ahead to be able to understand, I got to give you something to do. I got to make you think. I got to make you look for me. I got to make you search for me. But that's amazing to me. And then I thought about all the stars and I was thinking, my goodness. I know some of them, right? My favorite one is Orion. Okay, I look at the constellation up there and I know where Orion is always. That's my favorite constellation. But there's others like Pleiades and all of the Ursa Major and all of those different kinds of planets that are out there, and they're listed and everything and stuff. And I thought, well, who named them first? Where did all that come from? Was it some guy like Galileo or who back when kind of thing that started putting names on it? And so I was looking at the scripture and I found this. In Psalms 147. This is really wonderful to me. Psalms 147, verse 4, it says, He determines the number of the stars. That means God knows exactly how many are out there. We may miscount, or whatever, and we may not know exactly, but God knows actually absolutely every star that is out there. And He gives to all of them their names. God has named every star that's out there. Why would He do that? I don't know. It's important to Him, obviously. They're His creation. So much so that He named them all. And then I started thinking, and wow, like I have a name. My name is Blair. But when I get to heaven, God's going to give me a new name. That tells me there must be significance in name. That God is actually going to give me a new name. There's a significance in names because He named every last star that's out there. That is amazing to me. I could never think of 200 million names for one galaxy, let alone how many galaxies are out there. There's no way I could do that. But God named them all. So then if God named them all, I think He must have given a better name than P236 or something, like all those planets out there that they discover and they can't figure out what to name. So it's P236 or P255 or P2, whatever. But God gave them specific names. In Job 38, God was talking with Job. Job's one of the oldest books in the Bible. So this was quite early and after creation and stuff. In Job 38, as a matter of fact, I'm going to stay there for a bit in all of the sections, but 31 and 32, God's talking to Job after he's been arguing and talking with his friends and stuff. And God says, can you bind the chains of Pleiades or loose the cords of Orion? So way, 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 way back from the beginning, when Job existed, God told him the names of some of the stars. Do you notice that they're still called Orion? That the constellation Pleiades is still there? It's still the same name. Man hasn't changed it. You think God told Job so Job would spread it to other people so that, down the line it kept going? Oh yeah, that's Orion up there. Yep. Son, I want you to know that stars, though that constellation is Orion. And it hasn't changed throughout all of history. It's been from the very beginning of time that God named it. There's something else that's interesting about the stars, though, I want you to know from the Bible. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 41, it says this. There is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars, for star differs from star in glory. They're not all the same. Every one of them is different. And we notice that just in doing it because of the speed that we're discovering them, because light travels at such and such a time and stuff, and some of them are so far away, some of them don't have as much strength, so the light doesn't get here as fast and stuff, but they're all different. They're not the same. Paul's going through this and he's talking about there's different type of bodies for animals. There's different type of bodies for people. There's different. He's saying how all of these things that God did are different from one another. But there's only one glorified body that we will all receive. They are all different. Now that is creative. What a creative God we have, don't we? It's amazing to me. Oh, that is so cool. All right, back to Genesis. After he did the stars, in verse 20, let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures. Let the birds fly above the earth across the expanse. And I'm not, how little creative I am, as I was thinking, I could use some pictures here to show you some of the differences in the fish and the animals that God made. But I didn't know how to pull it off the computer and put it on a stick and bring it to a computer, and so you could see it all and stuff. But he talks about in Job, Leviathan. Remember that? He talks about Leviathan in Job 41:1. And nobody really knows what it is. But over the years, people have come to believe that it's the greatest marine dinosaur that ever lived. Its description is worth reading. If you go back to Job 41, the description of what God created is truly beyond belief. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook? Or press down his tongue with a cord? All of these, of course, are no's. They're implied. Can you put a rope in his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many pleas with you? Will he speak to you soft words? No. Will he make a covenant with you to take him for your servant forever? No. Will you play with him as with a bird? Or will you put him on a leash for your girls? No, it's not a pet. Can you fill his skin with harpoons or his head with fishing spears? No, can't kill him that way. I will not keep silence in verse 12 concerning his limbs or his mighty strength or his goodly frame. Who can strip off his outer garment? Who would come near him with a bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? Around his teeth is terror. His back is made of rows of shields, shut up closely as with a seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They clasp each other and cannot be separated. His sneezing flashed forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the dawn. Out of his mouth go flaming torches, sparks of fire leap forth. Out of his nostrils comes forth smoke as from a boiling pot and burning ashes. Can you imagine a creature like that? Shoots out fire. Well, we've all been Like they always have all kinds of fantasy novels and movies about dragons and stuff and things like this that shoot fire. Well, here you got proof that it's actually real. This animal shot out fire from his mouth. I wouldn't want to be around when he sneezes either, according to what it says here. My goodness. But God, why would he make such a huge creature like that? I don't know, but it's amazing that he could come up with something like that and create such an animal like that. Dinosaurs, I think dinosaurs are real. Yeah, we got all kinds of bones and stuff from them and things, and some of them were a lot more terrifying than others, apparently. Did you know that God created a fish named the hagfish? You ever heard of the hagfish? This blew my mind. Did you know that for the first 3 years of its life, it's female, and after that it's male? What? For 3 years it breeds and it gives forth babies and it has baby fish all the time, and then after that it said, I had enough of that, I'm going to become a man. But God created it that way. That's the way he made it. I don't know why, but it's amazing to me that he would do something like that. Absolutely amazing. Okay, let's go on. And then next one in verse, it keeps on and he goes to the living creatures. He creates all the animals, everything from the stand-ups to the creeping ones on the ground. And he creates all of those. Well, this kind of blows my mind, but I can imagine starting this way, but I would never be able to get to where he did. We all know, to me, a normal animal would be like a dog or a cat, okay? So then he starts creating and makes more, and then he keeps some that keep getting bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden you got a big hippopotamus. Fat, short legs, humping around there, doing all kinds of different things in the water. Hippopotamus. And the next thing he does, he puts a horn on one of them, calls it a rhinoceros. And then I think he does something else, and I stop and I think, oh, wait a minute, he's changing completely. He's pushing it down, making it skinnier, giving it really, really, really long legs, and a really, really, really long neck, and he's got a giraffe. Wow. Have you ever been able to create or think of those kind of things? Like today, I'm amazed at what people can do with their creativity and their mind to be able to create things, because they can draw animals and all kinds of different things and stuff. But for God, he made them just like that. And another amazing one to me is the duck-billed platypus. I think about that one. Wow, stumpy little animal, short little legs, but he's got this big bill. And it's almost like, evolutionists would think, wow, that came from something, like he's only got part of it and he evolved and everything. And I think God was just having fun with some of us. That he did some of those things in that, and he said, are you going to find me, or are you going to find something else? I'm going to put it there to make you think, to make you study, to make you evaluate. A duck-billed platypus. And did you know that in its feet it's got some kind of spines that if it touches you, it paralyzes you? Yeah, swats you with its back foot. There's little spikes in there, and it paralyzes you. And not only that, but I'm thinking, okay, in the beginning of time when he created everything was perfect, right? I don't think Adam had any trouble trying to name the animals. They'd all come by and he'd lift off his... it amazes me that Adam back then was so smart, because it ain't anything we are today. But all the animals came by and they didn't try to eat them. God said, I gave every grass and leaves and everything for them to eat. They weren't carnivores. They didn't eat meat. And I'm thinking, so from the beginning of time, he gave them all of these different venoms, the snakes, And he gave all of these big teeth and stuff that would chew up stuff from the very beginning of time. But they didn't need it back then. God looked down the history of time and knew what everything would need. Not just us as human beings, but his animals that he created. He knew what they would need to survive. He knew what would happen and which ones would become extinct. All of that before it's actually happening in our days. God was an amazing, amazing God that he could do all of that. Way beyond our depth of understanding. Are you getting an idea of how wonderful and amazing and great God is? If he could do all of that and he saw all of time, he did even something greater than that. He actually gave us his son. It says from the beginning of time, Jesus Christ was slain from the foundation of the earth. When God first took that material that he created and began to develop a solar system and a planet Earth for us to live on, he knew in advance that his son would have to die for us. That's an amazing God. Amazing, first of all, in the fact that he still did it. Even knowing Jesus would die from the very beginning of time, he still created us. He still made this world, this universe. That, more than anything, is the most amazing thing I know about my God. Even though he knew we were going to sin. Even though he knew we were going to destroy so much of his creation. Even though he still gave his son. Amazing. And I look at all of that and I think, God, you are so amazing and wonderful that you did this all in advance, that how can I not trust you? How can I not live for you? How can I not give you my life? Because I know it's not just somebody else, but it's me you saw through eternity, through time. From the beginning of time, you saw me. You knew you were going to create me. You knew how you were going to make me. You knew I was going to sin. And you gave your son for me. See, yes, God gave his son for the entire world, but let it be knowing that you, each individual person that you are, Christ died for you. It's easy to take it as the world, but it's hard to put it into me and say, I am that important to you that you would send your son to die for me. Don't make it so impersonal that you only look at it from the world standpoint, but make it very, very personal to know that he did it for you. You is who he died for. And you can trust him. If he takes care of the birds of the air, like he says, and they in all of their splendor, Solomon never saw the glory of it, was never close to the glory of the birds. would he not do it for you? Of course he would. For we were his crowning creation, human beings. We were what was very good, not just good. When he created Adam and Eve, it was very good. Trust him. Believe in him. Search him out. It's okay to take scripture and to look around the way I did and try to find out things about God and what he did and how he did it and what was all going. That's okay. God's not saying, I don't want you to test me or I don't want you to try and find out about me. He's not saying just ignore it and take it. If you're not a person of faith and you're a person of intellect, then look at it. Find the answers. Search it out, and God will be faithful and show you all of the things that you need to know to put your faith in him. And so today, we are here to have communion. To remember the greatest thing God has ever done. The most amazing thing God did when he gave his son Jesus Christ to die for us. So I'm going to give you a minute to, I took my glasses off. I have to figure this out first. Everybody can take your communion thing and try to open it properly without doing the wrong one first. Or this little wafer is a symbol that we're going to take today. Is a symbol of the fact that Jesus' body was broken for us. That in God's planning and mind from the beginning of creation, he knew that Jesus' body would be racked with pain, beat up, hidden with stripes, skin ripped from his back. God knew that from the very beginning day of creation. But it was worth it to him. It was worth it to him because he gained us. And then the cup symbolizes the blood that poured out of his body on that day. His blood was shed for us, for without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sin. Did you catch that? What Scripture says? Without the shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness of sin. And that's what we're remembering this morning when we take of the wafer and the cup.